The Babylonian Talmud records 4 rituals inside Jerusalem's temple that failed simultaneously 40 years before Rome destroyed it. They stopped working around 30 AD. That date carries a weight this text never explains. Inside the temple on Yom Kippur, 2 ancient rituals stood at the heart of Israel's atonement. The first involved the high priest drawing lots to decide the fate of 2 goats, one for the Lord, one for Azazel. Tradition held that the lot for the Lord would always appear in the priest's right hand, a sign of divine acceptance. But 40 years before the temple's destruction, that pattern broke. Year after year, the right hand failed to draw the sacred lot. For priests trained in the precision of ritual, this was more than a statistical fluke. It was a warning that the bond between God and the people had fractured. Next came the crimson strap. Each year, a scarlet thread was tied to the scapegoat's horns and to the temple gate. When the goat was sent into the wilderness, the strap was expected to turn white, echoing Isaiah's promise, "Though your sins are like scarlet, they shall be as white as snow." For centuries, this miracle reassured the nation, but from that same year, the crimson never faded. The sign of forgiveness vanished, leaving the priests and the people to wonder if atonement itself had been refused. The next sign came from the menorah, the golden lampstand that stood in the temple's sanctuary. Of its 7 flames, the western lamp was considered the most sacred, kept burning day and night as a symbol of God's presence. But for 40 years, the flame would not stay lit. Each evening, priests filled the cups with the purest oil, trimmed the wicks, and recited ancient prayers. Still, by morning, the western lamp was found cold and dark. To those who served in the temple, this was no ordinary mishap. The unending light was a reminder of the divine promise. Its failure cast a shadow over every ritual, hinting that the source of blessing had withdrawn. At the same time, another disturbance unsettled the priests. The massive doors of the sanctuary, crafted from cedar and plated with gold, began to swing open on their own deep in the night. Each morning, the guards would find them wide, exposing the sacred heart of the temple to the empty courts. It was as if the sanctuary itself resisted protection, inviting disaster inside. Rabbi Yohanan ben Zakkai confronted the phenomenon with a bitter rebuke. He said, "Temple, why do you alarm yourself? I know you will be destroyed." He cited Zechariah, who prophesied that they should open their doors, O Lebanon, so that fire may devour your cedars. With these final signs, the catalog of portents was complete. The rituals that once anchored a nation now seemed to unravel, and the warnings grew impossible to ignore. Centuries before the temple's fall, Jewish readers searching for meaning in disaster often turned to the book of Daniel. One passage, Daniel 9 verse 26, lays out a sequence that would echo through later generations. First, an anointed one is cut off, removed, or executed. Then the city and sanctuary are destroyed by the forces of a coming ruler. The order is deliberate. The text does not blur these events together. It sets them apart in time, with the loss of the anointed one as a precursor, not a result, of the destruction that follows. Scholars have long debated the phrase "cut off," noting its use in Hebrew for violent death or exclusion. In Daniel's vision, this break occurs before any mention of Jerusalem's ruin. For those living in the first century, this logic offered a framework. If the temple fell in 70 CE, something decisive, some loss or rejection, had to have happened decades earlier. The early 30s, then, became a natural window for searching out what or who might fit Daniel's pattern. Outside the boundaries of Jewish tradition, another strand of evidence traces the same time frame. In a letter to the Corinthians dated to the mid-50s CE, Paul recites a creed that he insists he received only a few years after the death of Jesus, Scholars date this formula to within 5 years of the event itself, placing it squarely in the early 30s CE. The creed states that Jesus died, was buried, and rose again, details rooted not in legend, but in the living memory of those present. This timeline fits with the tenure of Pontius Pilate, who governed Judea from 26 CE to 36 CE, giving a clear historical window for the execution. On a completely different continent, decades later, the Roman historian Tacitus recorded the same event. Writing around 116 CE, Tacitus notes that Christus, the founder of the Christian movement, was executed under Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. Tacitus had no sympathy for Christians and wrote as an outsider, drawing from imperial records or Roman memory. His account, hostile and brief, confirms the basic fact of the execution and its timing without relying on Christian sources. Together, these independent witnesses, one from inside the early movement and one from Rome's official record, lock in the date and the reality of the event, narrowing the search for what might have started that fateful 40-year countdown. Roman rule in Judea rested on a fragile bargain, heavy taxes pressed on farmers and city dwellers alike, fueling deep resentment. Local governors, appointed from Rome, often misunderstood Jewish customs and imposed harsh measures. Pontius Pilate, whose name appears on a limestone inscription from Caesarea, became notorious for using temple funds to build an aqueduct, a move that sparked outrage. Josephus, the first-century historian, describes a society splintered by factional strife, Sadducees aligned with the priestly elite, Pharisees with the people, and Zealots with open rebellion. By the 60s, violence escalated. In 66 CE, Cestius Gallus, Rome's legate in Syria, suffered a humiliating defeat outside Jerusalem, emboldening the rebels. The system of governance, already brittle, began to collapse under the weight of corruption, infighting, and Roman missteps. Three paths stand before anyone trying to make sense of these timelines and traditions. Some see the 40-year pattern as a theological message, an omen written after the fact, meant to explain disaster through divine warning. Others read it as a trace of real memory, evidence that something changed in the temple around 30 CE, even if the cause remains lost to history. A third view holds that the link is symbolic, drawing on the number 40 as a marker of testing or transition, rather than as a literal countdown. Each approach offers a lens, but no single answer closes the case. Layered meanings still ripple from ancient claims. As history and faith collide, the search for cause and warning remains urgent. Sometimes the questions we inherit define the world we build.